teaching my students, I always try to associate the golf swing with other sports. So for example, in tennis, there can be a lot of similarities in how we shift our weight and rotate our bodies. In baseball, hitting a baseball, there can be some similarities in how we shift our weight and rotate our bodies. But in particular, disc golf or Frisbee golf is very similar to the golf swing. And what I'd like to show you here is we use these discs here. They're not actually a Frisbee, but they worked out just fine and dandy. And if you think about it, when I get in position to throw this Frisbee, the very first thing I do is I wind up into my right side. Now, depending on how far I'm going to throw this Frisbee, whether it be 20 yards or 50 yards, I'm going to wind up maybe a little bit more. But for example, if you look at my setup here, I load into my right side. Now I am ready to let the Frisbee go. What's the first thing you do when you have a Frisbee in your hand? Well, there's a little shift to the left to your front leg. There's a little rotation as you rotate into your front leg, and then there's a release. So with a Frisbee, it would look something like this. Load, shift, transfer the weight, rotate, and release. And you let the Frisbee go. In the golf swing, very same thing. You load into your right side. With a downswing, there's a little shift, there's a rotation, and then there's a release. So in particular with the Frisbee that I like is that if you notice, when I release the Frisbee, look at the position of my left hand. Very similar to that as the golf swing. In other words, it wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be throwing the Frisbee into the ground, nor would I be throwing it up in the air. So the release is very level. And you can see how when I'm coming down, my left wrist is slightly bowed because I'm gripping this Frisbee. As I get into impact and start releasing it, it gets a little bit flatter, just like it would in a golf swing. And then from there, you let it go. In the golf swing, same thing. As I come down, the wrist is bowed just a little bit. As I get into impact, as I start releasing the club, I get a flat left wrist, and then I let it go. So that left hand is very similar as it was when I had the Frisbee in my hand. That right there. Okay. Now, if I tend to come over the top, I'll show you from this view right here, and it would look like this. It'd be like I would be throwing the Frisbee into the ground in front of me. Okay, that would be the over the top. If I hang back to my right side too much, in other words, I don't get my weight to my front leg, I would be throwing it very high. Like this. So I'm looking for a very level rotation and release. So if I'm going to throw this to you guys out there in video land, you can see there's a shift, a rotation, and a release, just as there is in the golf swing. So throwing a Frisbee is very similar to the golf swing motion, and you don't even have to hit a golf ball when you're doing this, and you don't really have to use a Frisbee. You can use anything that's flat and round, any kind of disc would work. But just try to get the idea that there is a load, a shift, a rotation, and then a release. Give that a try, and if I can help you with anything else in your golf swing, please let me know.